Good evening. This town hall series meeting on education is hosted by New Paradigm for Education. And to moderate this conversation, please welcome Chief Executive Officer Ralph Bland.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Learning During a Pandemic, a series of informed education conversations with students, families, and partners. I'm Ralph Bland, CEO for New Paradigm for Education. We are hosting this town hall tonight because we know the impact of COVID-19. The pandemic has had different effects on our children and education, and it's always all over our minds and hearts. So our hearts and prayers go out to our families that have been devastated by this pandemic. So if we can, let's take a moment of silence for those families. As we continue to adapt, we want to take this hour and we want to see how we can continue to grow and learn together. Because we know this too shall pass, we must keep the hopes up, our heads up, and keep preparing for young people, for our future, and the pathway ahead. And now, our topic for this evening, what is traditionally called College Application Week, has been extended to span 2 weeks this year, from October the 19th through October 30th. We're going to discuss all things that you need to know to prepare for the journey to higher education. At New Paradigm for Education, 100% of our students have graduated this past year from high school. In addition, 100% of those students have been accepted into college. We want those efforts to try to be duplicated by trying for every school in our city to have 100% graduating from high school, but also accepted to college. And that's why we're having this important conversation. A quick note before I begin. I'd like to give a quick thanks to Banks and Company for assisting me and keeping us on track this evening. So if you hear some voices in the background giving directions, it would be Banks and Company. Now, without further delay, let me introduce our great panelists that I'm excited to hear from. To kick off this conversation about college preparation during the pandemic, I'd like to introduce our first guest, Teresa Cry, who is the Assistant Director of the Detroit Office and Multicultural Initiatives at the University of Michigan. Ms. Cry, can you give us a short introduction and some opening remarks? Can't hear. Ms. Cry? Can you hear me, Ms. Cry? So we might be having some technical difficulty. So we're just gonna move on and we could come back to Ms. Cry. So now, Ashley Johnson, can you hear me, Dr. Johnson?
Yes, Ralph, I can hear you. How are you?
That's good to know, Dr. Johnson.
Good. Hello, everyone. Go ahead.
Dr. Johnson is the founding executive director of Detroit College Access Network and the director of the Detroit Promise. I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Johnson on many occasions, and I can truly say she's an amazing advocate for our students in the city of Detroit. So Dr. Johnson, could you give us a brief introduction and some opening remarks?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hello, Ralph. Hello, everyone. I'm super happy to be here with everyone tonight. I think this is a very, very important topic. Just to give you a little background, my name is Ashley Johnson, and I myself am a first-generation college student. My family still honestly works in some of the car manufacturing companies, but college has really been my way of overcoming and really having that economic mobility, and it's really given me an opportunity, no matter what the economy is, it's truly given me the opportunity to work in something that I'm very passionate about. And I just happen to get paid to do that. And I'm hoping that everybody else can have that opportunity too. So as he stated, I serve as the executive director of DCAN, or Detroit College Access Network, and I also serve as the director of the Detroit Promise. At DCAN, we work across high schools and community-based organizations across the city of Detroit. Ultimately, our goal is to try to get more schools to be reflective of New Paradigm, right? We want to see 100% of our students who want to going to college, and having those resources from their school to help them get to, and not only to college, but also through college. I also serve as the director of the Detroit Promise, and at the Detroit Promise Scholarship. I'm hoping that everyone's heard of the Detroit Promise Scholarship, but if you have not, just to give you a quick overview, there are two components of the scholarship. One is free community college. For community college, all you have to do is graduate from a Detroit high school, complete the FAFSA, and apply to get in community college, and you get free community college. There's also a 4-year component. With the 4-year component, you have to live in Detroit for 4 years, go to Detroit high school for 4 years. You have to have a 3.0 GPA, so make sure you're keeping those GPAs up. And then most of the colleges have different types of SAT scores that you can utilize to get that scholarship. So that's a little bit about me. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I'm hoping that we can be helpful for you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for joining us. Next, I'd like to introduce Dave Gamelin. He is the Vice President and Program Director for the Midnight Golf Program. Midnight Golf is another amazing program that we've seen scholars throughout Detroit be involved with. And Dave is like a mentor to me. Dave, can you give us an introduction and opening remarks?
Well, Mr. Bland, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this outstanding panel of experts on this subject. Midnight Golf has been around for about 20 years. I've been involved in the city of Detroit in education for probably 30 years or so, and have worked to really help find ways for our young people to reach their full potential. At Midnight Golf, during the last 20 years, we worked with about 3,200 students that have attended over 120 different colleges and universities around the country. So we have a lot of insight, but I will tell you for sure that in 2020, I don't know too many people that are prepared for what we're going through now. We're trying to do all we can to learn how we best serve our students during this time, because the world's not waiting on them and waiting on or giving any credit for any allowance for this gap. And so we're trying to make sure that they can stay not only alert and prepared, but even in an advanced way, lead in this during these times. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today and sharing what I can about maybe some ideas about how we can make a difference as we move forward through this and really beyond this current challenge.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Our final three panelists represent New Paradigm for Education finest. A representative from our parent community, Latanja Muhammad. Ms. Muhammad has had 2 sons matriculate through our high school, and they have gone to attend Harvard University and Howard University. So Ms. Muhammad is what we call our parent expert. And so much she turned her expertise into a business, college planning genius, to help support other parents and students for the college planning process. So Ms. Muhammad, welcome, and can you give us a few brief opening remarks?
Yes, first I'd just like to thank you for inviting me to participate on this panel with these heavyweights. I'm honored. And so I'm also very honored that my sons were able to attend DEPSA ECE. I believe they had a wonderful experience there, and I'm pleased with the outcomes. Just to give a little background, my older son, Sultan, graduated in the first class of ECE in 2014. He was the salutatorian, and he attended Howard. And then my younger son, Tariq, graduated in 2016 as valedictorian, and he went on to Harvard, and now he is in grad school at Columbia. And so, as Mr. Bland mentioned, I learned a lot during the whole college application and financial aid process. And then I just started picking up more information and sharing information with other families, I got my own credentials, and as he mentioned, I started College Planning Genius along with a partner. And so I'm honored to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks for being here, Ms. Muhammad. Now, I'm very proud to introduce Micaiah Ship. Micaiah, a graduate from Edison Public School Academy, Early College of Excellence last year, and is now a freshman at University of Michigan. She received numerous college and scholarship opportunities. And I just want to say thank you for being here, Micaiah. Could you give us a few brief remarks, opening remarks?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here because many of you may not know that throughout high school, I was very, very passionate about getting inner city youth resources and connecting them to the scholarships that they may not have had available to them throughout high school. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a background about me before I give you the advice that I'm so passionate about giving you later on today. But I want to give you a little background about me so that you know that I'm a credible source and that my advice is meaningful. So throughout high school, I was a part of many different community service and academic acceleration-based opportunities and extracurricular activities. And to name a few, I'm sure they'll ring a bell with you guys. I was a part of Wolverine Pathways, Rhonda Walker Foundation, Midnight Golf Program. I was senior class president, and I was nominated. Well, I actually won Youth Citizen of the Year last year, and now I'm a freshman at the University of Michigan. And not only am I going to the University of Michigan for free, but I also earned about $25,000 in extra private scholarships that I'm going to use to go to law school. I'm very passionate about political advocacy, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. Reaching out to different organizations in the city and both nationally to be able to get out the vote and be able to teach young people how to vote. So I'm really excited to be able to give you guys my advice about how to navigate the college readiness process and how to get to college and be as successful as possible.
Nice. Thank you, Micaiah, for joining us. And lad, we have two more panelists we need to introduce. Our next one is one of our seniors, Mark Evans. And Mark is a student at our high school, all-around scholar, great guy. Mark, could you give us a couple of opening remarks?
Hi, honored to be here. I'm actually the second of my siblings to trickle down through the Dubson community, and they're like family to us. They've offered so many opportunities, and I would recommend it to everyone.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Mrs. Cry, are you back with us? Hello, Mrs. Cry? Okay, it seemed like.
Can you all hear me?
We can, Mrs. Cry, we can.
Okay, great.
Now,
So thank
Mrs.
you all
Cry
so
is
much
the
for your patience.
assistant director.
As we get through this process, I am a native Detroiter, and I came back to the University of Michigan to work in this capacity as assistant director of our Detroit office and over a multicultural initiative to give back to my community. I come from a family of educators, and so it's critically important to me to teach students this process of writing application essays and what they need to do in order to get admitted. I previously was a part of the Office of Financial Aid at the University of Michigan and at a couple other Research One institutions. So I'm happy to join you all tonight and happy the technical difficulties are worked out. So I appreciate you and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
We're glad you could join us. And Mrs. Cry, we're honored to have you. And Michigan, of course, is one of our top tier universities in the state. And we're excited that you're on the panel. So that's great. So thanks all again for everybody being here. I'm so excited to dig in. So Dr. Johnson, we're gonna start with you. And I'd love to hear from the rest of the panel. You could kind of just jump in. What have you learned through navigating some of the challenges over these past months during the pandemic, as far as college access, and maybe share some lessons you've learned in these experiences and what solutions or takeaways you found?
Yeah, I think what I've learned is that, so Dave spoke about this a little bit already, but that there are going to be multitude of challenges that are facing our students, right? So one of the biggest ones is that typically students in Michigan take the SAT in April of their junior year. So therefore, when they're applying right now, they have already taken the SAT in April. So they've had multiple times to retake to improve that score if they wanted to. Unfortunately, this year, due to the pandemic, that test was not available to any students in Michigan. So many students were taking the SAT in September as part of their school, offering them kind of an opportunity to do that. But they were taking it potentially without any education for 6 months. And so that's probably one of the biggest barriers that we're seeing. However, one of the things I am seeing is for every barrier, most higher education institutions are being flexible with that. So a lot of higher educations right now, in order to support students with that, are going test optional. And what that means is that students can now apply to colleges without an SAT score. The one thing that I would tell you to do is to make sure that you are looking at each individual college requirements online, because some colleges may say they're test optional, but that also means they require a 3.5 GPA or 3.0 GPA. So they're not necessarily test optional with any GPA, right? And so what we're finding is students who are really trying to use that senior year to make up those high test scores and get that high SAT score, unfortunately, they may be a little bit behind. And so I just want to encourage students that, yes, we know you took the SAT later, but I would still encourage students throughout the semester to continue to try to retake it and get those SAT scores up as much as they possibly can, especially if they don't have that 3.5 or 3.0 GPA that their schools need. I would say the other thing is colleges are being really flexible. Oh, the other thing I want to speak to about that is typically when there is test optional, that means more essays. So keep that in mind, right? So a lot of students do not like to write essays in general. And so now they're like, oh, I'm going to apply test optional. Well, that means you need to, there'll be other ways that you have to really help the college understand who you are and why you might be a good fit for that college. And one of the ways is going to be more essays. So making sure that students are really taking the essays seriously. The other thing is that we're hearing nationally that college applications are down across the nation. So I really want to make sure that students understand they need to be applying right now. Unfortunately, as Dave spoke about, we are in a pandemic, but a lot of the processes for colleges and other types of systems are still going on. They're still happening. So I just want to reiterate that everybody should be applying right now. Students should be making sure they're getting additional support and feedback on those essays, especially if they're going to go test optional. And students should not give up on that SAT if they know they need some type of an SAT score to get into the post-secondary of their dreams. They need to make sure that they're retaking the SAT. The other thing is right now is the time to lean in. So I know like there may be a lot of things that are telling you like, I don't know what I want to do in the future. I don't know if I want to go to college and not actually have the college experience. I will tell you in times of anytime there's sort of issues going on in the world, one of the best characteristics you can build and habits you can build for yourself is to lean into resistance and push through. And so I just want to encourage people to make sure they're leaning in. And what that really means is they should be applying to college, meeting with their high school counselor, attending classes right now, even if they're online, even if you're fatigued and you're tired. I just want to really encourage students and families to lean in right now and to really try to push through, because this is still the foundation to your future. And you want to make sure that right now you're still making those solid choices that are going to set you up for the future that you really desire.
So thank you, Dr. Johnson. Dave or Mrs. Cry, do you want to comment on that, or?
I would agree with Ashley that this is the time to really lean into this process. And it does mean extra essays. I talk to students all the time and they're like, are you kidding me? I have to write one. Yes, and they should get used to writing. Wherever you go, you're going to be a writer. It is a part of the process, but also do your research, right? One of the things that I keep seeing when I'm reading essays of students, in particular, one that we have and most universities are gonna have is why us, right? Why our institution? And what we're looking for is that you've done your research, which means more reading and more writing. But the idea that you're going to tell your story about you've always wanted to be an engineer and we've got a great engineering school is not enough. You should be able to talk very specifically about those programs at that institution so that they know and understand, you know, you belong there. You have a place there. You're going to fit there. But you cannot just give them a generic, this is what I've always wanted to do, and so let me in your school. No. This is what I've always wanted to do, and these are the things at your school that are going to set me up for success, and this is what I'm going to bring to your campus community. Those are the things that we really want you to read. And don't be afraid to identify yourself. Often our students are not identifying who they are and where they come from. Be proud to be a Detroiter. Be proud to say, this is who I am. This is my city. This is where I come from. And we want to see that you have some grit and that you can climb out of circumstance and overcome, because you're going to go to post-secondary and you're going to have issues. And we want to know, can you overcome those issues? And you have everything you need. You just need to show us. You just need to write it. So I would add that. So lean into the process.
Okay, great comments.
You know, and I'm glad, if I could add just a little bit on that. So while that is absolutely correct and the thing to do, unfortunately, so many of our students don't know how to do what she just described. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to express themselves, except you don't have time to figure it out. What I would be doing if I were you is seeking as much help as possible. When you get to college, they're going to be writing centers. When you go to school, you kind of get a draft going, take it to the writing center, and they help you polish it. I would be doing that right now with my essays. I would not risk trying to write a high school level essay and submit it, especially with the way learning is going on in school right now virtually. The challenge is that, and I've learned this, you know, I'm embarrassed to say I've learned 90% of this. We always talk about learning styles. So many students were reliant upon teaching environments with the teachers in the classroom, and they could get immediate feedback and immediate help. And they were used to that. And so these are very bright kids who are now in a virtual environment, and they just don't even know how to operate. It's like all the wires are unplugged. And so if I could add just a tiny bit of advice, it would be get as much help is a strategy that you'll use in college regardless. I don't care how smart you are. So right now, seek help. Ask your friends, your pastor, that executive secretary that your parents know that work at some elaborate company. They know how to write, and they know how to express, and just have somebody help you express yourself. The other thing I would resist doing too is there used to be some kind of I don't know how to say it other than young people got a kick out of applying to 100 colleges or 50 colleges. I would really narrow my approach this year. I would be thinking of maybe a half dozen, 4 or 5, and really lean in, make relationships with the admissions counselors, make relationships with people on campus that you can reach through email, through sessions like this that they're involved in, get their names. It is going to take more work than it usually took, than it took before, but it's more narrow work. And I wouldn't dare write a paper right now without somebody reading it who could write a lot better than me. I would lean on every friend that I had. So I would just suggest that also, because it's in you. You know what you want to say, but the capacity to express it in writing is where a lot of our young people, especially the young people I serve, where a lot of our young people have some gaps, and I would get help.
And Mr. Gamble, can I follow that up with saying this? Ask those institutions that you really are interested in, do they have workshops? So in our Detroit office, we do essay writing workshops for our prospective students. So before you ever submit your application, literally every week we are having a workshop, whether it's at night or on a Saturday or on a Sunday. We do them weekly, and my students will email me their essays. So
That's
before
fantastic.
you hit submit, you should ask that school, do you all have essay writing workshops for your prospective students? Because many of them will, and they will give you advice before you hit submit so that you are more comfortable with what you submitted and can work out those ideas and those kinks.
So I knew this was going to be a great conversation for our community and for our families. And I'm just going to do like a quick recap because so much great information. So we talked about schools are now test optional. Students are going to have to write more essays. They're going to have to really focus on getting those applications correct. And in those essays, schools are going to ask about why us? Why do you want to pick us? So you're really going to have to get in depth in that essay. Mr. Gamblin talked about seeking help after you write that essay or beginning to write that essay. And Mrs. Cry talked about the workshops that they offer already at her location on Saturdays and Sundays. And before you even think about turning the essays in, those essays need to be reviewed. And also they could be reviewed by your English teacher or your counselor, and make sure that you're reaching out and again, seeking help. And so for many students, there'll be their first time in their family attending college. And Dr. Johnson let us know that she was one of those people. So what advice for those parents that are first time supporting families, supporting their child, getting ready to navigate the process? What would be some of the things that we can give those parents that it's their first time navigating the process? And Ms. Cry, I'm gonna direct this one specifically to you.
So what can parents do to support their children in this process?
Yes, and especially if it's their first time experiencing going through the process.
Ask questions. When you don't understand something as a parent, ask. A lot of times and I wasn't a first generation student, but my parents were so far removed when they went to college, it was still a different process. So you don't necessarily have to be first gen. It just could have been a long time since you've been an undergrad, but just ask questions. Every institution wants to help your child through this process. So ask us. It may not be the answer you always want to hear, but ask those questions about financial aid. What does that really look like in terms of a gap? Is there going to be a gap? Ask those questions about retention rates. A lot of times students are recruited by a number of schools and they get a lot of money up front. And then second year, third year, they're not renewable. So what is your retention rate at your institution? Because if someone tells you their retention rate, meaning that student started with you, they were recruited, they started as a first year student, but didn't show up second year. If someone says that's 50%, that's really, really low. Half your class left. Why? And what's your graduation rate? Because my goal in recruitment is not to recruit you to say we made the class. My goal is to recruit you for graduation so that in 4 or 5 years, I'm watching you walk across the stage. So there's some very critical questions that parents should ask, and or go in and say, I don't know what I should ask. Tell me what you think I should know as a parent. Either I haven't been through this process or it's been a long time since I went through the process. Tell me what I need to know. And that admissions rep will tell you everything and probably more than you thought you wanted to know. But just ask or just be upfront and transparent that you may not know what the process was.
Great advice. Great advice. So this question is for Dave Gamblin and Dr. Johnson. How are your programs preparing students for college, and what has the impact that you've seen from your programs? And do your programs offer any scholarships?
So Midnight Golf for 20 years, that's really all we do. It sounds like a golf program, and they do learn how to play golf, but it really is about going to college, staying in college, graduating, and then getting a job, starting your career, whatever that means. So we built ourselves to be that resource that families need, that first gen resource that, this is my 6th student in college resource, because the needs vary depending on how well prepared they are, what their academics are like, how much money is available, how much money or how much money they need, however you want to look at it. And so we've designed and built ourselves to be the kind of resource center for that, to help students who have, our goal is really for students to have college degrees, but really knowing for sure that your network is as powerful as your college degree. We have students that have graduated from Ivy League schools that were looking for employment. I have students from Miles College who've got great jobs, or Columbia. It doesn't matter if you know how to move and you know how to network. So the trick is really helping young people discover how to really position themselves and posture themselves in ways that bring opportunities to them, and then how to react when you see those opportunities. I know that's really vague, but that really is what the work is about. And then being an ongoing resource for students, for internships, for employment opportunities, for summer jobs and that kind of thing. Every year we're encouraging our students, that's one of the requirements of our program to apply for scholarships. But we will hand out probably $250,000 in scholarships in our own program. We have 17 different scholarships.
Wow.
In Midnight Golf. I shared this a bit in preparing. Unfortunately, they're exclusively for Midnight Golf students.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean that we don't also share scholarship opportunities that are available beyond that. That's not a lot of money for 250 students. And then we want students to really understand that there are a lot of the whole business of education. There are a lot of colleges that are looking for students, that are trying to find, you mentioned that you're proud from Detroit. There are a lot of colleges that want Detroit students to attend there because Detroit students don't attend there. So they'll bend over backwards in many instances to get somebody like you from Detroit to attend their college in Texas. We have students at Grambling, for instance, and, it sounds popular. Not a lot of students from Detroit go to Grambling. And so you're a valued person when you go there. And so, you really need to understand what your value is. And so that's part of what we do. It's helping students understand their worth, understanding how to network, how to move, how to negotiate, where to sit. What am I leaving out, Micaiah? You get the idea.
Okay. Thanks. Dr. Johnson, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I just kind of want to go back to the first question about first generation parents. One of the other things that I would add is so be steady, be optimistic, and be energetic, because the kids are going to be up and down and stressed out and all that kind of stuff. So you want to always try to be as steady as you possibly can, try to be optimistic, and try to be excited. This is a family game changer when you're a first generation student, right? It's not just about you, it's about changing literally the trajectory of your whole family. There are things that my daughter will never experience that I experienced because I have a college degree, right? And so I just encourage you to kind of try to be as steady as you possibly can and be exciting. And then there are going to be sort of devastating moments when you don't get into that college, you're not getting as much money as you thought you were going to get. And so just making sure that you are reminding your student, your child, of why we're doing this, why this is important, right? Why this is a game changer for the whole family. So I just wanted to say that. Okay. And then from the scholarship perspective, and doing that, you don't have to have college knowledge. My parents had no college knowledge, but they did those three things, and I promise you, they've made me wildly successful. From a scholarship perspective, as the director of the Detroit Promise Scholarship, I mentioned at the very beginning that we offer scholarships. So the first scholarship component is free community college. But I know that a lot of folks who are joining this call are really interested in four-year institutions. So let me speak to that one a little bit more. So you have to have lived in Detroit for 4 years, graduated from any high school in Detroit, no matter if it's a charter school or DPSCD or a private school, as long as it has a Detroit address. And you need at least a 3.0. This year, as I stated earlier, most of our colleges have come on as if admitted. And what that actually means is if you get into that college, no matter what your SAT score is, you will become a Detroit Promise student. Therefore, you will have 4 years of tuition and fees paid for, covered. And that is brand new for this class. This is the first class that we've seen do that. We've had over 10 colleges come in as that. Most of our other colleges are coming in as test optional. Again, that test optional can be associated with some type of a GPA. So if you are a family and you're considering, you know what, I wanted to go out of state, but now with everything that's happening, I want to stay in state, I would highly encourage you to apply for the Detroit Promise Scholarship. I did give information about the chart. We have a chart for every college. We have over 20 colleges that you can get access to the Detroit Promise for in the state of Michigan. I did drop that. Someone on the team has dropped that in the chat. You can also visit DetroitPromise.com for more information. Also, from the DCAN perspective, next month is scholarship month. And so we will be sharing a scholarship a day, and we'll have a scholarship database on our website. So I'll drop that information in the chat as well. I would encourage you to go to our website if you're interested, sign up for our newsletter, and our newsletter always has content information for students and families as well. And again, next month is scholarship month, so I really encourage you to apply for scholarships. Micaiah already has $25,000 in scholarships for grad school. That's where you want to be, right? And so you want to make sure that you are applying to scholarships. People are looking for students like you. But please know, for every 5 scholarships you apply to, you might get 1. So it's not a one and done kind of thing. If you as a family know that you're not going to be able to come out of your pocket and pay for college, you need to be applying to several scholarships to make sure that you can fill that gap.
Wow, you know what? It's so much great information on this panel. I'm just so excited about it. And Dr. Johnson talked about how we can get involved with the Detroit Promise Scholarship. Dave, can you just talk to families about how, if they wanted to get involved in Midnight Golf, how that would happen?
Yeah, if I could just jump in on that scholarship too. If that writing center is open, that's where you need help writing as well. So just 10 seconds, get help writing for those scholarships as well. If you really want to win them, if you want to up your, we have some other tricks too, but the best one is make sure you're turning in great essays. Most all scholarships have some form of an essay attached to it. So again, get somebody to read your essay. Don't get used to that. You've heard this before. A lot of students have heard this, kind of get a general essay ready and just shoot at all the scholarships. You need to custom fit every single scholarship you write. It's a lot of money. I don't care if it's $500, that's a lot of money. So you need to be very focused on making sure those those essays that go with those scholarships are sharp. Yeah, Midnight Golf is an application program. I'm always leery about being in public like this because we had about 1,500 people apply for Midnight Golf this year. Even in the pandemic, we interviewed about 800 students.
Wow.
And we only had room for 200 this year. So there's always a lot of disappointed people, and we don't mean to disappoint anybody. It's just not enough space. And I'm telling you, we have, without question, as you see with Micaiah and others, some of the most outstanding students in this city, part of our program. We never ask them about their grades. We don't ask them about their financial situation. They come from a whole array of high schools. But what they all share, our little secret, I'll let it out the back a little, is grit. If you have some drive, if you got some get up and go, if you really want it, we're the perfect place to be. So if you're a senior in high school, in the fall, we're closed now. We just finished our first month, so we're closed for this year. But we start the application process in January for the class of 2022. So if you are going to be a senior next year, if you're a junior right now, timing is perfect. But we have parents with freshmen getting ready for Midnight Golf.
Nice.
It happens often, so.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Mr. Glenn, I'd like to chime in on the scholarship discussion just briefly.
Yes, ma'am.
Scholarships are awesome, they're wonderful. But what we are seeing in some cases is when families apply for private scholarships or outside scholarships, they're experiencing something with financial aid called scholarship displacement. And families that have need-based aid in their package from the college are seeing that the grants, the need-based grants, are being offset by the outside scholarships that come in. And so families are spending hours and hours on the scholarship search process, the SAAs, making the movies, and all the different things that students have to do. And they experience this displacement and realize that their out-of-pocket cost does not change. So one of the things that families should also really start to look at is how can they get more money from the colleges and universities themselves? Private scholarships are actually the smallest pool of money that's available. It's out there and there's a lot of it, but other than the federal government, institutional aid is the largest pool of money. The colleges and universities themselves have money, but students have to pick the colleges that have the money. It's very disappointing. We work with families that come to us sometimes with a 0 EFC, and they still don't have enough money to pay for college because they didn't choose colleges that could meet a high enough portion of their need to make it affordable. So it's a balancing act, and the college selection process is huge in this whole equation.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. I'm gonna jump down, and I definitely want to hear from our alumni and our senior, Mark Evans. So Micaiah, could you share your learning experience during the pandemic and how you made the decision that worked best for you, choosing the school, but also your situation right now that you're in, that you shared with us briefly?
Of course. So, I mean, I guess I can talk a little bit about prior to me coming to school and my school choice, why I chose the University of Michigan. Believe it or not, well, I'm sure you can't believe it, I wanted to go to an HBCU. I was gonna go to Spelman, like nobody's gonna tell me otherwise, but eventually, you know, after conversation and time again, me and my mother spoke about it, about whether or not that would be a responsible decision for me. I would be able to go to Spelman for free, but it would only have been for like the first year because I would have been using my private scholarships. And that just wasn't a responsible decision to be making, given that I could have went to the University of Michigan for free for all 4 years and saved my scholarships that I earned privately. So, you know, I really didn't want to stay in state. I wanted to be able to go far away, you know, start a new life. That's what I thought it was going to be. That's not, listen, students, that's not what it is. Like, we think we're going to go out, you know, start a new life, start fresh. But honestly, I think, you know, these 4 years, we need to push them out and make responsible decisions. And then if you want to start a new life after college, then do what you will. But right now it's time to, you know, keep our heads on strong. And so that's why I made the decision to stay here, especially given COVID. That was another factor, being close to home, not having to take a 5-hour flight to be able to get home, or if you get sent home in the middle of the semester, that's a whole nother trial that you're going to have to deal with. So that's why I chose the University of Michigan. I'm happy with the decision, but, you know, there's uphill and downhill battles with every decision that you make. So just be prepared for that. And so I decided to go on campus because my living space just isn't somewhere that I feel comfortable enough to be able to take 4 college classes with. And I knew that I needed a study space, I needed a quieter space, and I needed an academic space to be able to be successful. At least that's what I thought. So I actually did go on campus, and, you know, we know that COVID didn't end. So it got worse and cases started going up. And I just realized that that wasn't realistic for me to be able to be successful in when I was worried about COVID, you know, literally my next door neighbors. I was worrying about them getting it. And I just didn't want to be in a space to where I would be coming home and then have the possibility to infect the people that I love. It just wasn't responsible. It wasn't smart on my behalf. So I decided to come home, back to the space that I thought I wasn't going to be able to be successful in. And I came back, and my scholarship money is actually what allowed me to be able to redo my living space and make it academic, make it an academic space for me to be able to be successful, given that we're on Zoom. You know, that was important to me. And I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't bust my butt and do scholarships every single day and get that private scholarship money, because, you know, it may sound like, oh, why are you dipping in it? But it's barely a dip. It's barely a dip when you literally grind that hard and you accumulate that much money and you build these many relationships. There were people reaching out to me after networking, like Mr. Gillen said, that was offering to, you know, do my room for me. And I was like, no, like, don't do it. No, I'll do it. Like, it's not a problem at all. But for these families who are looking on the outside, the networks, like, that shouldn't go. That's not something you should just push up under the rug. That's extremely important. And I want to get into this later as well, but I think we should not necessarily think about how hard this time has been for us during COVID, but think about the opportunities that are coming out of it. Now we're living in a virtual world. The opportunities are at your fingertips. Like, now, it used to be, you know, a point in time where there were these big companies and organizations in California and New York and Chicago, and you wouldn't be able to get to those opportunities because they're so far away from you. Now these people are looking for you. They're typing in, you know, Detroit activists, you know, scholars in Detroit. They're typing that into Google searches and they're finding the people. So you need to capitalize on your digital footprint. Make sure that that's something that you would like to represent you. For instance, for me, I've been making sure that I could do that over the past few years. And I had the opportunity, I was reached out to by NBC, and now I'm working with NBC News about a series for college students, political advocacy and how they're just dealing with coronavirus in general. And it's an ongoing relationship that now I've built, and that's in my back pocket, and that's a network that I have, so that in 4 years, if I want to reach back out to these people that I did a favor for, they can be like, oh, we're having this internship opportunity. So I just don't want, students to think that the world is over and that the opportunities are not there, because they're limitless. They're there. And now, like, I'm not going to tell you not to look for the resources, but now they're looking for you. So it's that much more easy. So I just want you guys to be able to be proactive and not be so pessimistic about the circumstance that you're under right now.
Thank you, Micaiah Ship. That was definitely some great information. I just have a couple more quick questions for you, Micaiah. How many colleges did you actually apply to?
So Mr. Gilman said it earlier, I don't do what I did. I applied to about, like, I was on a rampage. Like, I applied to like 50 plus schools,
Okay.
not because I just, was interested in all these schools, because I definitely wasn't, but I'm a first gen student as well. And not only in my immediate family has nobody ever gone to college, but not in my distant family either. So this was new territory for my entire family. So I just wanted to be able to show everybody, like, hey, I can get into all these schools. It's not that important. It's not that important to apply to all those different schools. It's more important that you spend your time on picking the schools that you are actually interested in and picking the schools that that can financially support you. So I advise you to do that. Don't do the 50 school thing. It's not smart. It's something that you can put on your belt for a couple weeks and tell people you did all these schools, but it's, at the end of the day, it's not gonna bring you any long-term success to apply to all these different schools.
Okay. Thank you. We're gonna move to Mark Evans, but hey, I just want to say, Micaiah, that was pretty innovative, what you did with your room and using and leveraging what you got through your scholarships. That was pretty innovative. So Mark, let us know, Mark, how have you been adjusting with the new distance learning environment since March? And how have you made some efforts getting yourself involved in the college enrollment process?
Well, so the first question, I kind of did the same thing Micaiah did. I distanced myself from my comfortable environment, which is my bed, and put a desk in my room, even if it's only 3-4 feet. That way I have utter focus on the screen and putting my back towards the TV. And doing that, I, again, gave myself a focus zone, and I really recommend it to anyone who can do it. I know not as many people are as fortunate to do it. But to the second question, there's actually a lot of things that you can do. And again, Micaiah said opportunities are everywhere now. These virtual scholarships and these virtual tours are everywhere. Like, I go to one every like 2 days, 3 days, virtual tours, and they're really informative. They give you basically an outline of how you apply and how you get scholarships. So if you're a senior, that's really the best thing you could do. Some programs that I'm in and that I have been in to help, which is Ecotech. Ecotech is a really big deal. So with Ecotech, it's for young scientists like myself who want to research and do the things that a 4-year or even 8-year degree would allow you to do. Through this, he allows you to research yourself, get your own topics, and he gives you the supplies to make your vision come true. This expands comprehension, reading skills, it expands problem solving. Long story short, it really helps out all of your abilities, and I really, really recommend it to anyone who hasn't heard about it. A second program in it is TLAB. With TLAB, it gives you mock SATs and ACTs, mock interviews. I do like that once a week, and they give you real feedback. So they tell you on the spot if you made the cut or if you're not, and they give you feedback on how to make yourself better. Lastly, this is for anyone who wants to go to Kettering. They have this AIM program, and with this AIM program, you go there for, well, I wasn't able to go there because of COVID, but normally you go there for 2 to 3 months, over the summer, and they give you college work. They give you the entire experience. It's completely free. You just have to put an effort and an essay along with it. So it was a really good experience, and I really recommend all those 3 things.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, how did you get involved in the Kettering program?
I got involved in the Kettering program through the network of Ecotech and T-Labs. They both knew the directors on Kettering. And I've actually made a really personal relationship with the director myself. But like I said, that's if you can go to those programs.
Okay, that's good. So Mark, you were involved in Ecotech, which is a science-based program here in the city of Detroit that offers students research, basically research-based skills that you would need in college, and also some writing skills. And that also helped you to create the opportunity for Kettering, which is Kettering University, which is in Michigan. And so you have some experience on a college campus. So what I want to do, I want to go back to Mrs. Muhammad. And Mrs. Muhammad came in earlier in our conversation, who's our parent expert. Could you just tell us just a little bit, our time is running a little tight. How did you get your kids prepared for college, Mrs. Muhammad?
Okay, so I would say that it began, when they were babies. I mean, I had in my mind, I was telling them when they were toddlers that they were going to college. So all throughout their lives, they knew how important education was in our household. We lived in a household where everybody read books. When I took my sons places when they were little, they always had snacks, something to drink, and a book. So reading was like a high priority. And my younger son, Tariq, he is a bookworm. He went way beyond the bookworm that I was growing up, which is a blessing. But so throughout life, they were being prepared for college. But once they got to high school, basically, DEPSA, one of the things I really appreciate about DEPSA ECE was the college-bound commitment that we made when we got there. As soon as you walk in the door freshman year, you make a commitment. Your goal is to get into college. And so from that point on, when you make that commitment, as a parent, I participated in all of the parent-teacher conferences. I went to all of the college nights, financial aid events, made sure all their applications and everything were done on time. Encouraged them. Every time there was an opportunity for them to visit a college or university, they were able to take advantage of that opportunity. And of course, our young people mentioned now the ability of doing virtual college tours, which is really important. Those are excellent. So I followed the plan. I followed the instructions, the guidance, and there's no shortage of guidance at ECE. One of the things that I might have done a little differently is the strategy that we use to come up with our list of colleges. One of the things that parents have to consider is when they apply to colleges, there's a front end and a back end. So when you apply to these colleges, up front, you want to get in. On the back end, you want to get some money. And so when you fill out all those applications, whether it's 10, 12, 20, 50, probably around 12 is a good number. If you've done a good amount of research and you're a good match for those colleges and universities, you get in. But on the back end, if you have applied to colleges that are similar in their interest in competing for students like you, and you get those award letters in the spring, quite often you can use those award letters as leverage to negotiate for more money. We always teach families award letters are offers. You go to a car dealership, you do not pay MSRP. You don't even pay the first thing they tell you. You negotiate. You find out incentives, rebates, everything that's available to you. And we help families do research to find out if a college or university even awarded them fairly. Quite often they don't. But you can't just say, I don't have enough money, I need more money. You have to have some data and some facts. So when you apply to colleges, that's part of the strategy when you put together that list. So I would have done that part a little differently, but I'm glad that we applied. We applied to probably about 14 schools. And so that also gives you a good probability of getting into several schools and having some schools to choose from. Sometimes we have families that they have a student who's a very high achiever, and so they automatically think they can get into their school of choice because they've got this 4.7. And we had a family, a young man had a 4.7 and was waitlisted for a competitive college, and they were devastated because they didn't have any more applications done. So having a good list of colleges that really match your child's talents and abilities and where they fit in at a competitive place is really important.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. And we're gonna, and I don't want to stop, but we have to get to some questions. And I just want to thank our panelists because this has been one of the most exciting town halls that we've had. But we have to go to some questions. Lloyd, can you give us a couple of questions?
Actually, Mr. Bland, we have about 3 or 4 minutes, and one of the main questions and a lot of feedback, a lot of comments on Facebook is they want to know how to get in touch with all of these great resources and in the panelists that you have. And so if everyone can do a round robin and we get that information, that would be extremely helpful.
Okay. So one thing I do want to say is that some of the panelists did want the contact to go through us so we can connect them with the panelists. So I could give that information near the end. So since we have 3 or 4 minutes, I think I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. And then we could give the information along with the closeout.
Sounds good, Mr. Bland.
Okay. Again, I just want to say thank you to all the New Paradigm Education family and the partners joining me this evening. This was certainly not enough time, and I know it, and we know it, and the panelists know it, and we might have to come back and just do some more because this is a very important topic. And Dr. Johnson mentioned this earlier, that college enrollment applications is down. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of applying to college and hopefully definitely trying to help you get accepted. So, but it's very different, and it's a perspective about experience and those who are committed to students receiving a quality education no matter what. I'm excited to take these learnings back, some to our high school seniors and preparing, and also our parents. And there's so many pearls of wisdom that we can give to juniors that are coming up for that college process also. But before we wrap this up, I just want to share a few things. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to like us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. We'll be hosting a learning during a pandemic town hall once a month, and we don't want you to miss the next one. If you want to learn more about New Paradigm or get in touch with our panelists, you can reach out to npfeschools.org, npfeschools.org, or call us at 313-269-0024, 313-269-0024. We're still offering open enrollment seats at our schools for students, and have the opportunity available also for parents if you want to join the New Paradigm family. We'd love to connect with you and look forward to having more conversations in the future. And finally, Micaiah Shipp talked about space. And we had a conversation when we were preparing for the panel. And a couple of our panelists talked about if it's space, open space, that you're willing to support, because college students and seniors need these quiet learning environments. So if it's a church or a hall or an office space that has a lot of room, please connect with us, because we want to create these quiet spaces where students can have time to study. Because we have to remember they're not on the college campus right now, and they need that study space, and that's important. So please reach out to us if you are interested in that. If you represent an organization that can help, please reach out to us again, npfe@npfeschools.org, npfe@npfeschools.org. And so that we can work together to make this happen, our great scholars here in the city, Detroit need every effort, and we need your help with more of our scholars. So thank you again. And just to recap, I just want to say that thank you again for our panelists, and thanks for joining us on Facebook Live. And I would like to just make this last comment. This is going to be stressful times for students, especially seniors. And what's important is their mental health. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on that also, because this is going to be stressful not only for students, but families. And our next session on Facebook Live would be about mental health and mental health recommendations and what we could do for social emotional learning for students also too. So please join us next time, and we'll get that information out to you. Thank you and good night.